Hi, I'm Fiona, I'm 58 and I'm disillusioned. Today I'm going to enlighten and disturb you about the benefit system. Some unfair actions by my final employers, an unwelcome diagnosis and general bad luck led me into the benefit system, a system we pay into and hope to never have to take from. In 2012, I had the feeling all was not okay with my health. By the end of November, I went to the doctors and she spotted Parkinson's disease pretty quickly. I was 46. It was an unforgettable moment. I was working as a police community support officer for Lancashire Constabulary. I was married to Andy, 4 cats, keen fell walker, motorbiker and amateur photographer. 2013 February. I waited 4 months to see a consultant for diagnosis at Preston Royal. Menopausal and Parkinson's, not a great mix, but I carried on work as normal. I did tell the police I had been diagnosed immediately. Fatigue is a major issue and a friend suggested I apply for PIP, Personal Independence Payment, so I could work 4 shifts instead of 5, as we worked long days and patrolled on foot. My application was successful, as PIP is not means tested. It is there to help disabled people with extra costs of living with long-term disability. 2014 just passed by. I just carried on the best I could. I turned 50 and enjoyed 3 days in New York with Andy. It was fabulous. 2015. I have been left alone at work largely, but the police decided to extract me from my role as PCSO on the Ridge. 10 years I'd worked on the bulk ward. A sharp-eyed superintendent had spotted an email. I was called in and promptly taken off frontline patrol. I was placed in early action, a role I loved, but it was very demanding. It's a strange move, not one you would describe as office-based or non-confrontational. It meant dealing with young people and families damaged by abuse, alcohol, mental health, drugs and poverty, and mainly in Morecambe. School and home visits, mostly alone and without uniform, as schools were against the high-vis, as were the families I visited. 2016, April, cutting to the chase. My employers decided to hit me when I was down, after 17 years of employment. I was called into a meeting with the Chief Inspector, an inspector and a sergeant, about my welfare. The meaning of welfare is health, happiness or fortune for a person. That was not on offer. I was informed that the constabulary were removing weekend and evening shift allowance as they'd been monitoring my log-in and out records. And even though I had dispensation from a force medical officer to do what I could, because he said to me, you can't work 10-hour shifts with Parkinson's, I wasn't asked to change my role. I had no sick leave and now this. I was very upset and was advised to get a doctor's appointment. The relief just washed over me when the doctor issued me a sick note. The last year had been arduous. There followed a 12-month one-sided farce where the personnel department at HQ were evasive and could not seem to find me a role. If staff could not be redeployed, you would be made redundant, and with 18 years service, this amount would have been about £28,000. I was unsuccessful. No pension, a union rep who had crossed the thin blue line. It all ended in my apparent voluntary retirement, and it wasn't. A gagging order, and here's 10 grand. Now Foxtrot Oscar. Oh well, I won't be gagged. 2017, April. No fanfares, no goodbyes. I was just gone. I cleaned out my locker prior. I'd handed in my ID. 18 years service. Gone, and I felt bitter and distraught. No one knew why. They probably thought I'd been sacked. Back to benefits. Yeah, benefits. Why would you think I need to sign on? Well, being hit with a lifelong progressive neurological disease which has no cure, I've got no job, no financial cushion, and general bad luck meant there I was at Lancaster, signing on for help. Universal credit was just coming in, being piloted in our area. So up the cobbled hill to the doors of Lancaster Job Centre, the joy. Sandra was my work mentor. I was lucky. She was understanding and kind, but with universal credit, you spend most of the time on the phone or online. What a shambles that was. I ended up with Bell's palsy, a facial paralysis caused by extreme stress. The treatment was steroids. The uncaring, rude staff at the service centre, I was laughed at, and I was told, you have money. The decisions were inhuman. Mistakes on their part left us getting monthly amounts of naught to £256. An amount was given 1 month, then taken back the next. You can imagine how far those amounts went. My husband is my carer, and the £67.60 carer's allowance per week is taken off your universal credit as it's means tested. For the honour of your £67.60, you must do a minimum of 35 hours a week, which turns out to be £1.90 an hour. But Universal Credit do pay your national insurance, and they have actually listened to feedback and employed more helpful staff recently. PIP. Back to May 2017. I applied for the higher rate of daily living. £20 a week extra. Denied. Here are some of the ATOS observations. I was observed to have average build and was not prescribed dietary supplements. I showed no signs of self-neglect and did not appear to be trembling. There's no increased sweating, I wasn't anxious, restless or withdrawn. I heard my name called from the waiting room. I was observed to stand and move 23 metres from the waiting room to the assessment room. I was observed sitting in the chair. I was observed to bend to ankle level and place my hands on my head. I then moved 8 metres to the exit. There were no signs of suicidal thoughts. I was polite and I answered all the questions fully. Quote, I cannot consider awarding you PIP for any help you need, for anything not covered by daily living or mobility activities, including weather conditions. After the disbelief that you've been turned down, next stage, you are informed you don't fit the criteria. Tick boxes and questions so generalised that they bear no correlation to what I have. After a long 10 weeks of anxiety waiting, I was still denied. Not ill enough, I guess. The next stage is to attend a tribunal. Very frightening wording on the letters. Every piece of correspondence, you're told you could lose your whole benefit if you carry on with the claim. More forms and evidence. 18 months of anxiety and panic waiting for the court tribunal. To be asked ridiculous questions, i.e., how did you get here today? Reply, the bus. So how did you find getting to the directions to the courts? Reply, well, I worked over the road at the police station for 18 years, so I managed. A judge, a disability representative and a doctor. And I have no idea whose side the disability rep was on, but it wasn't mine. I found it scary. Why was I there? My life had been destroyed by Parkinson's and I was in court. Why? From 2013 to 2022, 6.4 million PIP claims were registered. 6.1 million claims have been cleared, i.e. granted or not, and 2 million mandatory reconsiderations. That's a third of the claims. 2019, I applied for the lower rate mobility. And yes, a pattern is forming, because yes, listeners, I was denied again. So I filled in mandatory reconsideration forms again. 6 weeks later, it was granted. In 2021, I applied for and was granted the higher rate of mobility. I'm at a loss to why it was so awful. I'd hoped for help in a time of need. I was let down by my employers and the benefit system who were supposed to be there to help me. Every day is awful. I'm on reams of tablets to resemble a human. Without their movement would cease completely. I would be bedridden. The side effects of long-term medication can be just as bad. With early onset, you have to deal with that. I'm currently suffering on top of the other things, a reaction to reducing dopamine agonist, Ropinirole. No one informed me it's very addictive and like cocaine to withdraw from. It really is the worst thing I've encountered so far, and it's slowly breaking my steely resolve. It has been said, and probably more thought by many, surely you could work. My reply, what do you think I could do? Well, you could work in a supermarket on checkouts. Tremor, rigidity of muscles, pain, I fall asleep at any time, mild cognitive issues due to the anxiety, incontinence, involuntary movements, freezing where the movement just stops, quiet voice. I could go on and on, just to list a few of the reasons why Morrison's may not be taking me on anytime soon. Many mistake Parkinson sufferers as drunk, slurring speech, balance issues, shaking, involuntary movements, just more crap to deal with, others' ignorance. But it drives me to raise awareness. So a bit of a pitch here. I will come to workplaces with my trusty PowerPoint. I will raise awareness of Parkinson's disease. I've not let this drag me down. All the remarks, the glares from the oldies when I'm in the disabled seats on the bus or in a disabled bay. This is the main reason I'm here, to engage with relevant organisations to create change for all that cannot face it themselves and break the stigma of poverty and disability. Myself and my husband have run an early onset neurological help group for some years. We support many through the minefield to ease their journey, and we've done so much to raise awareness. I've fought for others not as tough as myself, Will you join us and bring about change for those less fortunate? I hope so, because I won't give up.